Hello everyone, welcome to this special edition of Midday Discourse. I'm Uyag Mofwegbe, live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, and this is Global Television. Just following the general elections, of course, part of which Kano State was by way of governorship election, one would have thought politicking has ended and we're back to full-fledged governance and provision of dividends of democracy for the good people of the great states of Kano. But that doesn't seem to have been pretty much the case. It has been one twist after another, particularly as it has to do with the traditional rulership of that very pivotal state. Today we understand that the incumbent governor, talking about Governor Yusuf, has now reinstated the post emir, talking about Sanusi Lamido Sanusi II. That in itself has generated a lot of controversy and dust even beyond the great states of Kano. Questions have now been asked about the motivation behind this action by the governor, considering that the previous administration under the leadership of former Governor Ganduje had, in the words of some people, calibrated, as it were, or if you like, split the Emirate into 5. But today we have seen the House of Assembly in that state repeal that law, and then a new law is enforced in Kano. 2 days ago, courts had said, look, you can't just close up, or if you like, merge all of these emirates. You have to return to status quo, meaning that practically Governor Yusuf does not have the power to reinstate the post emir. But we know events have overtaken all of that now because Emir Sanusi is back to the Emirates. Question is there closure to this tussle already, or is the controversy going to continue? I'm joined by a very respected and frontline academic, Dr. Babayo Sule, is of the Federal University Keshere, Gombe State, to help us find sense and perspectives in this conversation today. Dr. Sule, it's always a pleasure to have you in the program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure also being live here in the studio.
Exactly. That's interesting because it's your first time being live in the studio with us.
Yes.
Right. So I'm wondering, Emir Sanusi II appears to always find himself in this kind of situation where there are controversies around his leadership. Recall that when we had former President Goodluck Jonathan, we also had this tussle on his way to becoming the emir. As a matter of fact, on the day of his coronation, we understand that access to the palace was not even granted. Of course, that's now history. One would have thought 9 years down the line, we won't have a repeat of that sort of situation. Talk to me about the politics of Kano as it affects the traditional rulership of that state.
Well, thank you very much. The traditional rulers, or rather the royal house in Kano State, is arguably the most strongest one in the country because of its influence, the history, the values, and the heritage. But unfortunately, to reflect toward history, this is not the first time that this incident is taking place. Specifically, as you mentioned, something surrounding Emir Muhammad Sanusi, because the same thing happened with his grandfather. A similar situation when he collided with the former premier of northern Nigeria, Sir Ahmadu Bello, so he was deposed and replaced. So in fact, when he was appointed in 2013 or 14, I could not remember precisely the date, there are many pundits and experts on the socio-psycho motive of the Sanusi's attitude and approach towards issues, who believe that history will repeat itself. Because one, Muhammad Sanusi is someone that is always critical and is someone that will not hold back his views, no matter the consequences, and is someone who he believed to him that he always speaks truth to the power. And if you like, by extension, you can say it's always a garrulous. So, and the nature of our traditional system contemporarily is one should always be tacit. You should not be meddling or be speaking excessively, particularly to the powers that be, because you have a limitation, because you are under the constitutional control of the constituted authorities, particularly the elected office holders. So what happened was, I think, if you could recall, in the build-up to the 2019 governorship election in Kano State, there was a speculation that Muhammad Sanusi was with the segment of the Konkoso and Abba section instead of supporting the incumbent. And the normal tradition is that usually the traditional rulers in a state are expected to rally round behind the incumbent because their financial source, their strength, their existence, their laws, and other privileges are directly under the control of the governors that are controlling this state. So therefore, they are expected to be loyal and they are always expected to be supportive. But unfortunately for Emir Muhammad Sanusi, he was not. But that was not the angle that they approached the matter. Because after the election, they have now approached the matter in a way that they now said that there are corruption allegations, embezzlement of funds, and squandering of money that he inherited in the palace. So it was based on that they set up a committee, and then it was forwarded according to the chieftaincy regulations in Kano State to the State House of Assembly to investigate the matter. And once they investigated the matter, they found him guilty. For example, one of the allegations was that he squandered not less than 2.1 billion naira in just within the period of 6 months. And then another allegation was in less than a year, he spent over 300 million just on the internet, which is outrageous because which kind of internet is that? Are you providing a wireless broadband to the entire Kano municipal or what? So therefore, based on these allegations, they now decided to oust him out and then depost him. And then but that is not the actual matter on ground. The actual matter was about political support, which of course, they will not come out and mention that directly, but that is the basic understanding if you are following the situation. So therefore, he was removed based on a political motive. And then, but that was not only the reason. Because even before the election, in the pre-election period, he was critical of the government. For example, one of the areas was when the Ganduje government wanted, I think, to borrow about, is it 10 billion naira or more in order to construct a rail line within the Kano municipal in order to ease transportation. He attacked that attempt as just a waste of money and a project that will not benefit the common man. So they were not happy with that criticisms. And on the eve of the announcement of the election in 2019, when that saga of the inconclusiveness was arrived at, the Emir Muhammad Sanusi just came out openly and said that anyone that is believed to have won the election should just be given without any attempt to subvert the process, which it was anticipated during that time that the Abba won the election. So by coming out to say that anyone that won, you didn't mention any person, but we know where you are heading because Abba was leading. So in other words, you were saying that the incumbent should not hand over power to the opposition because he won, so that there will be no chaos or crisis. Of course, going by our heritage and tradition, traditional rulers are not supposed to be mute. They are not supposed to go to comatose when there are sensitive issues that are affecting the society, particularly the socio-economic and political well-being of their subjects. Because if you could remember, before the coming of colonialists, they were the ones that were directly ruling and controlling the subject.
Right.
So they still have that emotional attachment. They still feel that if there is need, we need to intervene. But most of them used to do that covertly. They don't come out openly and criticize, but that was not Sanusi. It was not his own like, because he always criticized openly. So therefore, this was another reason. So based on that, he was deposed and removed. But then there is one thing that I want us to look at here. Whatever we are discussing, we should also be conscious of regulations, laws. The laws are by the provision of the Constitution under the control of the state governor, either to continue to maintain, or to amend, or to repeal, or to do whatever. So they now repeal the law. They say 2014 law? Right. Chieftaincy, 1984, sorry. 1984, yeah, they repeal it and they replace it with that of, I think, 2021. Or is it 2019 or somewhere around that. So when that happened, and then it happened that in the 2023 election, Governor Abba won the election. And we all know that Sanusi has a very close attachment and affiliation with the Konkoso section because he believed that he was removed unjustly. And he also believed and anticipated that once they return back, he will be reinstated. So, and that's exactly what happened. Now, I saw some lawyers arguing because there was a matter, one of them, I think someone, Babadang Agundu or whatever, he took the matter to the Federal High Court. And the court delivered a verdict that the governor has no power. To me, in my own understanding, I'm not a legal practitioner, but as a political scientist, of course, also, we have no boundaries into a law. We need sometimes to look into it. Right. So I believe the state governor has powers to do that. There is no problem with that because it is there in the constitution that chieftaincy appears and regulations are under him and he can amend any time or repeal or whatever. So the issue of legality is not the matter. It is politicking that is fundamental issue here.
I want to talk to you about politicking for a second, Doctor, because as it stands right now, the elements of Ganduje, the immediate past governor, and Kwankwaso, who also had been a governor in that state, of course, the leader of the NNPP, the party that provided a platform for Governor Abba Yusuf, are very fundamental in this narrative. So it raises concerns as to the intersection between politics and traditional leadership. Would you say Emir Sanusi is overstepping his bounds in terms of how he interferes in political affairs?
Yeah, of course. Because to me, I think that we all know our own politics. You know, each society has its own political culture. Since it is our own political culture, what is happening was the colonialists ensured that they eroded the values and the powers of our traditional system. This is something that we cannot undo now because we maintain it. We retain it after they left. Right. If we wished, we could go back to our previous structures, but we didn't do that. So therefore, because of that, since we are comfortable with the system, then those within the cycle of the traditional system should know that it is something that has now come to stay. So therefore, what they are required by the principles of our politics, not by law, is just to maintain their silence, particularly in the public when it comes to the issues of decision-making policies and programs initiated, executed, and evaluated by politicians. But I know there are many royal fathers that used to go and meet with even the president and discuss sensitive matters that has to do with the welfare of the public, but they do that in a clandestine way, not openly. So that's what Emir Sanusi should have understood. As a technocrat, of course, I don't blame him because you don't expect me now as an academic to become, for example, an emir, and you expect that I should be tacit for whatever issue that I saw. It's just as good as you imprison me. It's as good as you sapped me of some part of my fundamental human right. So going by his own training, it is difficult. But then the critical question to ask is, if you cannot match and melt within a system, don't you have an alternative? You do, you have. Particularly, people sympathize with him when he was dethroned. But now his return caused a lot of disaffection toward him by the public. Because I could remember when he was dethroned, I spoke critical against it because it is toiling with our traditional values, with our heritage. But I believe for someone with an integrity, with principles, with knowledge, I think it's so with experience, locally and internationally, you should know that the peace, the tranquility of a volatile state like Kano is more than your personal ambition. So therefore, based on that, even if the politicians, based on their own political conflict and rivalry, wanted to drag you in the midst of their own fight, you should have desist from it by insisting that let the bygone be bygone, because two wrongs cannot make a right. But unfortunately, he's over-ambitious. In fact, even when he was dethroned, he has been going around exhibiting himself as a royal father, demonstrating the royalty and all this. In fact, he has never accepted even for once that he was dethroned. Because even when someone mentioned as a dethroned emir, he was so bitter about it and said that instead call me the 14th or the how many emir of Kano or Muhammad Sanusi too, the emir of Kano, but don't call me a dethroned one. So he still believed that one day he will come back. You will see him while traveling in the airport, in other states, in functions, in gatherings, whatever. He will always appear royal, with royal regalia and so many other things.
Was he supposed to drop that form of dressing? I mean, following his deposition?
As a member of a royal family, you cannot. But there is a limit to what you will demonstrate. For example, you cannot be going with what they call the padawas or your chief servant and so many other things.
As though you are still the emir.
Yeah, sometimes with even umbrella on your head, because all these are exclusive of the serving or functioning emir. So, but he has been doing all these things. And so because of that, you see, and to me, one of the dangers of politics in this country, it knows no bound when it comes to morality, when it comes to history, when it comes to culture. Why I say this is because it is a pure political rivalry between the Ganduje faction and then the Konkoso faction that now led to all this toiling and toying and then meddling into the affairs of the what? Traditional system in Kano.
I need to talk to you about something real quick, Doctor, because as it stands today, we understand that the deposed Emir Ado Bayero is back to Kano.
Yes.
All right. Then, of course, the governor, Abba Yusuf, has said he's going to take action against the judge who delivered the order stopping him as the governor from reappointing Emir Muhammadu Sanusi II. That's one issue. The second issue is the governor has moved ahead to even accuse the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, of throwing his weight behind deposed Emir Ado Bayero. Is this not already an expanded problem, or is it not a continuous conflict? Yeah,
it is escalating the situation. Because one is, by now giving an order, even an arrest warrant for the deposed emir, he has his supporters, he has his own sympathizers, and he's a part of the royal family in Kano. So therefore, you are creating disaffection and you are creating additional chasing among the ordinary citizens of Kano State. That is one issue. And if, for example, should it be by opportunity or by fortune or by destiny, Aminu Ado Bayero is reinstated, there will never be that harmony and cooperation among them till he finishes this tenure, and even another one if he will be lucky to be next governor again in 2027, which is not good, because they are supposed to cooperate for the common goal of Kano State and the common welfare of the Kano people and not for personal interest. That is one aspect. The second aspect of accusing or of labeling weighty allegations against the National Security Advisor is outrageous, because it's a sensitive national security matter. That office is an office that you cannot easily accuse, because it deals with serious national and international security matters that you need to be careful in your utterances and your allegations. In other words, the Kano State government is now saying that the entire country or the federal government is part of it for the public. I think we should be careful of sometimes some of these things, but your political emotion should not overweight your reasoning in such a way that just because you want to achieve. For example now, if we may ask ourselves this question, what is the rift, or rather what is the rancor between Abba Kabir Yusuf and Aminu Ado Bayero? To me, I will say none. It's just a matter of the enemy of my enemy is my enemy. That's just what, it's just to me a puppet, sorry to use this word for a state governor, but there is no alternative. It's just a puppet installed by Konkoso, and then Konkoso wanted to continue with the rivalry with Ganduje. So therefore Abba Kabir Yusuf has no in any way a rancor with Aminu Ado Bayero, because he was not a former governor, although they may, because even if you say that the 2019 election was, for example, allegedly rigged by Ganduje, how is Aminu Ado Bayero involved in it? He was not involved in it.
He's not a politician, he's a
not
traditional
a politician,
ruler.
He was not an emir at that time. So therefore, I will say that just Abba Kabir Yusuf is fighting a proxy fight, which he has no business fighting. If I were him, I will find a way that I will reconcile the process without actually clashing with my principle, that is Konkoso, and without touching the traditional house, so that at least we will move on. So, but unfortunately, it's like he's just acting the script, and that's how he found himself now, always causing conflict in his state, when he should settle down and deliver the dividend of the 3 years democracy ahead of him, because he may not know whether another opportunity will be given to him by the electorate in Kano State or not.
There are two arguments I hear from people that I speak with about this issue, whether on television or off of television. The first is to say that while the former governor Ganduje had, of course, deposed the emir then, Sanusi, he could have done that without necessarily having to cannibalize the Emirates into 5. That's number one. The second is that there's now the vehement call to say, look, let's reconcile Ganduje and Kwankwaso. That until that is done, Kano, for want of better words, will not know political peace.
Well, you know, even I myself, I was not in support of the balkanization of the royal house in Kano State, what Ganduje did. Because we had this experience in, for my example, state, Gombe State. It happened, one governor, I think the pioneer democratically elected government, Hashidu in 2002, did that by creating almost 11 first-class emirs, which we believe always the emir who is staying in the Bubayor house should be the only first-class emir, while others should subordinate him. So I myself was among those who are not happy with the compartmentalization of the royal house. But then what they should have done, if they must do it, to me is to abrogate the compartmentalization. After doing that, since Aminu Adobaro is not found wanting, that is in terms of any offense, you will say that, okay, the law has repealed all of you, but then we reappointed you to continue for peace to exist. I think it's simple this way. At least the other ones that lost will understand that they are not all of them being witch hunt, but rather they wanted to restore back the strength of the house. But well, Ganduje made a mistake. But because I made a mistake, it does not mean that someone coming after me should repeat the same mistake, so that mistake upon mistakes will lead to crisis and violence with many issues that is happening in this country. It should not be so. So to me, of course, even if you interview majority of the Kano citizens, they will prefer it will be one house instead of 5. But most of them are not happy that this one is removed without any reason. And second, they are not happy that Muhammad Sanusi refused to uphold his integrity, retain his value and his own reputation among the Nigerian and even international public. He is an international emir, not a Kano emir. He is well known internationally. So I think that alone should be a reputation that he should guard jealously and he should be satisfied with, instead of just trying to confine himself within the Kano Emirate, just because of, to me, a minor ambition, because I see it as a minor ambition to me.
But how do we, on the final note as we wrap up now, how do we find lasting peace in this regard? Because whether you like it or not, the governor's argument is that the judge who delivered that order was in the US as of the time he did that. And he has dragged the NSA into the mix now. So it is becoming even more complicated by the day. But ultimately, the ambition should be to find peace, whether Emir Sanusi stays or he leaves. So how do we achieve peace?
I think there are 3 ways, but all of them are difficult, but they are not impossible. Number 1, I think the National Assembly should come to rescue all our traditional institutions. What they will do is they should initiate an amendment, or rather introduce a law or an act or whatever they will call it in the National Assembly, which will entirely detach politicians or political decision from the traditional institutions. The kingmakers should be allowed to absolutely appoint and depose an emir without intervention of any politician. That in order, the powers of the state governors to appoint and dismiss should be also from them and be given to the kingmakers. Because all these kingmakers are part of the royal family. Whatever a decision they made is now an internal issue that can only be amicably settled by the powers above them, but you cannot say it's politics. That is one. I think they should initiate a law, pass it quickly, and then they should send it to the state houses of assembly, and then make sure they engage the media and other civil society, so that the state houses of assembly should be pressurized to support this law. So that after that is one, just resigned honorably and allow the other one to be and endorse him. The third one is for Aminu Adobaro on the other way, that is to be fair to 2 of them, to do the same, to just accept his fate, resign honorably and endorse Muhammad Sanusi, and then that is the end of the crisis. All of them are the same family. And it will not harm any of them if it resides with any of them, because it's still within home. So therefore, it's for one of them to now resign, because it will even be the most easiest and the most immediate solution. The state government, I think, will continue to drag the Ganduje section will continue to drag. But if one of them resign and endorse the order, I think that's the end of discussion.
Now I see why I said it's possible, but it's difficult. But I thought I should seek your opinion on this. Is it appropriate or otherwise to expect President Bola Tinubu to intervene at this point in this crisis?
Yeah, it's the president. He's a national leader. So I think he may cause impact, not only for this traditional rulers' problem. I think it's high time to intervene and settle the rift between Konkoso and Ganduje, because I always believe this way. Once there is a crisis like what is happening now between Wike and his governor, or between Konkoso and Ganduje, or anywhere, it always affects the well-being of the state. It is development and the delivery of the critical infrastructure for the welfare of the citizens. They are not affected, because if they like today, in the next 1 hour, they can book a flight and go to US or UK or anywhere they want. They can stay for whatever they want. They can spend lavishly for as much as they want. They don't have a problem. But what about the common man that is entrusted upon them, that is under their own control? So therefore, it is good if the president will intervene. And you know, it's not necessary that if the president intervenes, that the media or the public must know. He may call them in a private meeting and then decided to sit them down and first of all settle this matter first, see it settled, and then call them back again and settle the bigger matter. So that at least they will nip in the bud all the antecedents that are leading to the current imbroglio, which is affecting the well-being and the development of Kano State. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Dr. Bubayo Sule, for coming to share with us. Thank you very much. Also, it is my pleasure.
Apparently, this is an ongoing issue, and we're hoping ultimately Kano State and indeed Nigeria will find peace in this regard, because there has to be concerted efforts between the political class and the traditional rulership, not just in Kano State, not just in northern Nigeria, but across this entire nation that God has blessed us with. I'm Oyagmo Fuegbe saying a big thank you to you for investing a part of your time with us this afternoon. Coming up shortly will be Unleash with Chung and Amel Joseph. Have a great weekend.